Welcome to episode number 31 of the Castbar. The developer Q&A fired off without any problems and brings a flood of new information and possible new questions to the table. We have a small giveaway kicking off today and a bit of news for you too. If time permits, we'll be doing our weekly review of lower Blackrock Spire. Thank you and enjoy. Welcome everybody to the Castbar, the World of Warcraft podcast, channeling your content with no interrupts. Today is Sunday, June 14th at approximately 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. My name is Michael Schwahn, and with me I have Florian.
How's it going, Michael?
It's going real well. Am I still being a little bit static?
No, you sound better now.
Okay, I'll recheck it in post. Evan will be with us shortly. He is busy finishing cooking his dinner, I believe, because it's dinner time there at 7:30. So I believe that's what he is preoccupied doing. What have you been doing this week, Florian?
Not very much. Getting a lot of work done. Trying not to play too many games, but the Steam summer sale has kind of pushed me into that, whether or not I want to.
Oh god, I'm gonna go check it right now.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing for my wallet.
I bought something the very first day because Valkyria Chronicles was $5 from $20, and I was like, you know what? I'd always wanted to play that. I'll just buy it right now. Even if I don't play it for like 2 more years, it's there.
Well, yeah, if nothing else, you end up with a massive game library, so you have something to do when you get bored. Thing is, though, I don't think I'll ever get through all of my Steam games, and I still somehow get fooled into buying more.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. There's games that I will just never, ever play. Well, and also some of them become from such huge bundles. Like when THQ was going bankrupt, they had the THQ bundle, which was every game they ever made for like $40. And I was like, well, there's games in there that are like $40 that I do want to play. And so I bought it, but it also came with like 50 games that I just know I'm not going to play.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I have the same bundle, and bundles are the worst thing because you'll buy the bundle for 1 or 2 games that you actually want that are in the bundle, and then it comes like with these other 8 games that you've never heard of that you're not going to play.
It's actually worth it though for those 2 games that you want, just because of how cheap it is. But at the same time, you do get that pile of useless.
Definitely true. Definitely true. It's like, you get your 1 or 2 great games, and then you get 8 indie games about farming or something that you've never heard of and will never ever play. But it is what it is. You still get cheap games, so I'm not going to complain. Games have never been as cheap as they are now.
Right, and fortunately it doesn't look like there's anything on the deals today that I care about. Yeah, there's nothing here. I don't know. I didn't look yesterday, which is probably good for me. I don't know what was there yesterday. Of course, the deals from yesterday are probably still going. Yesterday big deals. Yeah, here they are. And that's nice of them, so you don't actually have to check every day. But at the same time, it's like, oh, well then. I guess that is still on sale. Thanks. I have not been doing anything real exciting. I started playing Magic the Gathering again since I am much closer to a local game store now with the people that I once played with. I'm trying to make sure that I keep the expenses on that very low though, so I'm not going to be spending lots of money. But my second week back after not playing Magic for 2 years, and I won the entire tournament on Friday night. So yeah, that was pretty great.
Very nice.
Yeah, it made me feel real good. I was like, apparently I still know how to play this game. Awesome. But other than that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sure all the Hearthstone playing kind of kept your basics in check.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's similar.
Yeah, it's similar. There's a few things that are drastically different. The thing that's probably the largest difference between Magic and Hearthstone is that Magic creatures don't retain the damage from one turn to another, and there's no instant spells in Hearthstone. So Hearthstone, you only do stuff on your turn, whereas Magic, you're constantly doing stuff on your opponent's turn. But other than that, they're basically the same game. Anyway, let's go and get into the news. another problem that I see with the Steam sales, they put the same games on sale every sale. So I'm going through here and it's like, this is already in your library. This is already in your library. You're like, oh, you got me with that one last time. Good job, guys. I don't know if it was that cheap last time, but I bought it. So anyway, first thing on the news this week is so there's a little bit of news and then there's a developer Q&A. We'll be doing the developer Q&A for our closer look because there was a lot that came from it, and there's still things that we want to talk about in the news. The first thing we want to talk about in the news is the loot in Tanan Jungle. We had spoken previously that it was going to be a Timeless Isle-esque type thing with the tokens. We get to see these tokens now. It's literally just, same thing, except instead of different types of gear, it's just a token that says, this makes you a leg piece, this makes you a chest. But the reason that this doesn't matter is because they're soulbound. What do you think about that, Florian, about them being soulbound? I guess it'll be easy to bring alts there, but would you have preferred them to be account bound?
It really makes more sense to have them be account bound, really. But, as long as Tanan Jungle's fun to play, I don't see why it would make too much of a difference. I feel it's going to work out okay. Mostly because even though it is pretty good, the gear is not going to be mind-blowingly great. It's just, I think it's a step above Raid Finder gear, maybe 5-10 item levels higher. So you can just go into the Hellfire Citadel Raid Finder and find comparable stuff. So it shouldn't be a big deal.
Actually, 650 item level will be less than Hellfire Citadel Raid Finder.
Well, I was referring to the fully upgraded gear, but
yeah.
You are quite correct about that, which makes my point even better.
Because LFR is going to be right at 675, which I believe the entry level item level for Hellfire Citadel LFR is going to be 650. So this is going to be exactly like Timeless Isle trying to get into Siege of Orgrimmar. If you get all of the pieces, then you have exactly enough item level to get into the final raids. What we believe to be the final raid, or whatever they're trying to sell us. Raid Finder. But previously, this one is one that I think is really going to be a judgment on what the chances are of this popping, is that you're able to purchase these tokens for 5,000 Apexis crystals each. And then they also have the Burden of Eternity, essentially. I forget what it's called. I just read it and went, oh, it's a burden that has a chance to drop. You can get it from a couple quests and stuff. And it puts your items up to item level 695, which, Siege of Orgrimmar, is right around where Flex was, which is now normal now, in terms of the comparison. And those are going to cost 20,000 Apexis crystals. Right now, I feel like this is terrible, just because I don't feel like Apexis crystals outside of the 1k daily are really that prominent, that available. Like I said, unless they're... And I'm not including the weekend events. Have we heard anything else that says we're going to be getting more of these?
Yeah. Well, we haven't heard anything official from Blizzard, but according to people who are on the PTR, Apexis crystals do drop in larger quantities from the Tanan Jungle Apexis things that you do, whatever they are, Apexis missiles or what have you. So it seems like they have increased the drop rate to go hand in hand with these prices.
Okay. So, really, I just hope that increased means at least, I'd want to see it at least 50 a mob.
That would be nice, but I get the feeling that's just way too generous for Blizzard.
I'm still gonna have to kill, maybe not. Okay, so maybe more 20, I guess, because I don't want to have to kill 1,000 dudes out in the middle of nowhere just to be able to get one piece of essentially what will be crap quickly replaced gear. I have a feeling it's going to happen anyway, but I don't want it to happen that way.
Yeah, I wish I could comfort you somehow, but that's just probably how it's going to be. So might as well just have to deal with it.
Oh, Blizzard, ruining all hopes and dreams and making us grind even when you're telling us that you don't want us to grind.
Like I said, the upside is it's only slightly better than the Raid Finder gear. I think it's 10 item levels higher or something like that.
Then what?
Than the Raid Finder gear for Hellfire Citadel. So if you really don't want to get it, it's not going to hurt you that much.
Well,
It just seems like it's an alternative option for people who don't want to do Raid Finder.
it's actually lower than Blackrock Citadel Raid Finder. Blackrock Citadel drops 655, and this is 650. And I don't think the Burden of Eternity token-esque things are going to be as prominent as we would like.
Almost certainly not. Almost certainly not. At least I wouldn't count on it.
Hey, as long as they change some of the drop rates, you did a lot of Timeless Isle, right?
I did a fair bit. More than my fair share, I feel.
I feel, and maybe this is just me, like, I always had a ton of cloaks, but I never, ever would find any rings or trinkets or necklaces.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those three things in Timeless Isle ever. I mean,
Yeah,
I found
feel like they were
a ton of
terrible.
cloaks, ton of regular gear, but never any trinkets or rings or that sort of thing.
Yeah, never any trinkets or jewelry, and I feel like those were really important pieces because they were like the hardest things to get ever in that tier. Especially for like going into Siege of Orgrimmar, it was like you really want the trinkets, but they're like either really hard to get or really sought after, so your chances are low. And then rings, I just felt weren't prominent at all in Siege of Orgrimmar. It was like, man, you could really use a ring. Who drops a ring? Nobody.
Yeah, that just seems like kind of a running thing. Not only in Siege of Orgrimmar, but just in WoW in general. It seems those are generally the hardest slots to fill, for some reason.
I think it's probably because they're the most widely shared slots.
Probably, that would make sense, since like a good DPS trinket is a good DPS trinket.
Yeah.
No matter who you put.
I mean, and so like, I mean, an Agi ring, how many classes use agility? Like 5 out of the 11, if not more? Like
a lot.
Yeah, like ton, like 7 or 8. So I mean, and they will normally only have like 2 Agi rings that drop, maybe 3 in the raid, and it's like, well, that's not many. But I guess they don't want to flood the loot tables either by having every boss drop, a ring. But I don't know. Blizzard has the data and the hours logged of trying to figure out loot tables. I'm not going to try and decipher that myself.
Yeah, definitely not. They'll get it sorted.
All right, let's go.
I have faith in their ability to figure it out.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never felt like any raid's loot was just completely terrible. I can't think of a time where I was like, man, this raid is just, assuming it wasn't like an old raid. I mean, if you went back to raid like Terrace of Endless Springs when you were doing Siege of Orgrimmar, obviously all that loot's going to be garbage for you. But that's just because it's, 50 item levels lower or whatever ridiculous amount it was.
That's true. That's true. But that's just a problem for old raids.
Yeah. So.
Which is totally different issue.
Yeah, it's not even in the same type of discussion. So let's go ahead and move forward. Florian, tell us about Paul Sams.
So Paul Sams was the CEO, apparently, of Blizzard, something I did not know, because I don't really care who Blizzard's CEO is.
Right, we always think of like Mike Morhaime. We're like, yeah, he's the face of Blizzard. And it's like, there's actually somebody bigger than him that does a different job. I mean, we're all like, really? Who? Well, apparently it's this guy.
Yeah. Apparently he's also the president of the Blizzard SAS. I don't know what that means. The only SAS I know of is the Special Air Service, but I don't think he's a British Special Ops operative.
No, I don't know either, and I tried looking it up, and all it said is like Blizzard Entertainment SAS is a subdivision of Blizzard Entertainment. And I'm like, what does that mean? And when you search it up, it's like business analytics software, system analytics analysis system. I'm like, I couldn't figure out what SAS was, and I never heard of it. And it's listed on Paul Sam's LinkedIn as president of Blizzard Entertainment SAS. I don't know what SAS is. If any of you out there know what it is, please tell me for my own curiosity, because I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, in any case, he left and went to work at Ready at Dawn Studios, who they make a few things here and there. Most recently, I think they made The Order 1886. Which received some pretty poor reviews, but I'm not going to hold that against him because he just got there.
Well, and also, in my experience, a CEO really has kind of zero say over like what the game what they make. I mean, I have a feeling that they handle like, you know, all of the actual business stuff. And probably like they probably have somebody else designated to be like, what game are we making next? And they probably just bring it to his table and they're like, this is what we want to make. And he's like, cool, signs it off and goes on with his day.
Maybe. I think yes, I think that he would have some say over that, but I'm not in the gaming industry. I have no idea how it works. So we could just speculate. But apparently he left. He went to Ready at Dawn for whatever reason. I'm not sure why you would. I would love to work at Blizzard, but maybe it wasn't working out for him.
Well, and that's one of the questions that I first thought when I read this. I mean, because Ready at Dawn has 6 games under its belt. Daxter, God of War, Chains of Olympus, which is just the PSP version. It was a port of Okami to Wii, so they didn't really make anything. They just moved a game from GameCube to Wii. PlayStation 2 and GameCube, whatever, anyway. God of War, Ghost of Sparta on PlayStation Portable. God of War Origins Collection, which is the 1, 2, 3 all-in-one disc for PlayStation 3. So again, it's not really a game that you make. And then The Order 1886, like you said. And that was in February, and the God of War Collection was 4 years prior. So they'd been putting a lot of their time into The Order. And then 3 months later, Paul Sams jumps over there. And I don't know. Do you think maybe like, I mean, Blizzard's a big company, so I imagine the workload for a CEO for Blizzard is like a lot higher, a lot more stressful. You have a lot more people looking at you. You're probably the person that a lot of people call and talk to, like your private investors and stuff like that, and your shareholders. And whereas a company like Ready at Dawn, which is much smaller, you're working on probably only 1 game, maybe 2 at a time. So you think maybe it's just a much more like a similar position, but I can't imagine he gets paid as much as he did at Blizzard.
Maybe. Can't say for sure. But once again, we don't really know what it's like to work at Blizzard. You know, it could be just a really difficult, long hours job. Maybe that's why he left. I mean, like, we could speculate all day, but...
I will speculate all day over this one individual who I hadn't heard of until I read this.
Yeah. But, yeah, people just leave, and that's okay, I guess.
You know the thing that makes me curious, though? Like, it almost makes me sad. So he started out in 1996 as the director of business development in Blizzard. Then he went to vice president, senior vice president for global business development. Then he went to CEO in 2004, where he stayed for 11 years. So, you know how Blizzard gives their employees rewards based on how long they've been there?
Yep.
He was like 3 months away from getting the crown. Like, come on, man. You almost had the crown. Only one person at Blizzard has the crown at this point. And that's the 20-year gift is the straight up like full on beautiful platinum crown with like sapphires in it. It's like you almost had it. It makes me wonder if they might. Obviously, there's probably no way to know if they would give it to him anyway, just because like it's. I mean, 1996. He's been there for 19.5 years. And he apparently has been just a real big. No, I mean, he was CEO for 11 years. I mean, if it was up to me, I would give him one anyway, just because, it's like, thanks for everything, you will be missed.
Yeah, they could.
I don't know.
At least, that would be kind of nice since he has been there a ridiculously long time. But, I don't know.
Now I'm curious what kind of retirement system Blizzard has. Like maybe Ready at Dawn is offering him a better retirement. I don't know. How much?
It could be.
I don't know. But
maybe
good
he
for
really
him.
Sucks at his job and they want to get rid of him. I don't know.
Aww.
Could be. Like we can't just blindly assume that he's a good guy.
I'm trying to think of the positives. All right. We'll go into the next one. So with a little bit of an announcement, patch 6.2 is going to be coming very soon. We still don't have a date yet, but what they did announce is that the PvP seasons would be ending soon. Now, the PvP season, they always give a 2-week heads up before they end. This is not that 2-week heads up. This is just, hey, this is like your announcement for the announcement of, hey, we're going to be telling you soon that this is going to be ending soon. And the end of a season always marks the next change in the game, because with PvP being very competitive, they don't want to do a bunch of class changes or anything like that in the middle of a season, because that can change the balance of PvP. And also, they do these announcements because anything that has a competitive ladder, what ends up happening is that you'll play you'll play at a high level at a casual rate for the majority of the season, just to get yourself up towards the top, but you don't push to be the top because there's no point yet. And then during that last 2 weeks, you just go, I'm going to play as much as possible and win as much as possible, because that'll push my rank up and give people the least amount of time to bump me down. And that's why they do that announcement. It's the same thing in Hearthstone. The Hearthstone seasons reset every month, and on the last day of the month, all of the pros are just slamming their faces against the computer, because it's that last day is the only one that actually matters. And there'll be people that are like, I'm 1500th place in Legend, and then they're like, oh, it's the last day, play for 10 hours straight. I ended the season at rank, at 6th best player in A. Because, if they were at 6th best player halfway through the month and then just didn't play, someone is going to bump them down in that time.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of a weird system they have going on there, but it's the way it's set up. It just rewards the people who wait until the last second to procrastinate. It doesn't reward players who are consistently playing throughout the season, which would make a lot more sense, at least to me.
Yeah, it's true. And you can win, let's say you win 100 games in Hearthstone, and I believe WoW PvP goes the same way. You can win 100 games, get up to number 1, and then if you don't play for a week, someone else will have bumped you down to 15th place, and all that work is essentially meaningless, because now you need to win probably another 20 games to get back up to first again. And even if you win 300 games and get to first, you can have somebody that's only won 150 games still bump you down, because the way that system works is completely ridiculous. It's just kind of really unfair. At least that's how I would look at it, as just being unfair.
It is a weird, unfair, and broken system, but it's something that to fix it would require game design skills far beyond mine.
Yeah, I don't know what would fix it either.
It's a complicated problem. I'm sure Blizzard has some smart guy working on it.
Maybe. I feel like if it's something they're concerned about, because StarCraft runs on this same system. They have the different rankings, and then once you get up to Grandmaster for StarCraft 2, then it just goes into your number, 11,373 out of 15,000 Grandmasters, and then, you can climb your way up. And it works the same way in StarCraft. You just wait until the end of the season, play a crap load of games, and get your number up there, and then huzzah. And you get to skip a whole bunch of people that, didn't play that day, essentially. So if you don't play the last day of the season, then you are essentially wasting the whole season.
Very true. Very true. It's a completely broken setup.
It's weird. It's a weird setup.
Hopefully they'll work on it, because I kind of feel bad for the PvPers who are getting screwed out of the high ranks that they rightfully deserve.
They should have played that last day, man.
Sometimes you can't play that last day. Sometimes you have to work.
You're not hardcore enough.
It's well, I think that era of WoW is mostly over. The one where it's hardcore, play 12 hours a day, that's a relic of the past. The only people still doing something like that would probably be top raid teams, right when a new raid comes out.
Sure.
Or preparing for a new raid to come out. Aside from that, I think WoW's just gotten more chill.
Yeah, I hope so. At least overall, I'd like to think so. Alright, next topic. Florian, will you tell us about more new mounts that are coming our way in patch 6.2?
Oh man, we're getting some sweet mounts. We are going to get the Infernal Dire Wolf, which is going to come from the Glory of the Hellfire Raider meta achievement. So basically, just be really good at Hellfire Citadel. It looks awesome. It's basically a dire wolf, but it's infernal. It's got the green flame going on. The Coal Fist Grondling, which is just another Grondling mount. Apparently, you get that from a rare garrison mission that is going to be in 6.2. And then the Soaring Sky Terror, which is a Rylak mount that you get from the Draenor Pathfinder achievement, which is the new achievement that will be part of letting you fly.
It's true.
I think it's worth noting that the Soaring Sky Terror is a reskin of the mount that is in the mount shop, which is something I don't think I've seen done before.
Right, because the Rylak was first from the, like you said, it was the Iron Sky Reaver, and now we have the Soaring Sky Terror, which pretty close to the same thing. But they've taken off the rockets, and now it's just the Rylak itself. It doesn't have its combat gear. Makes me wonder if it'll still do the cool barrel rolls and stuff that the Iron Sky Reaver does.
Hopefully it will. Barrel rolls are a pretty nice feature to have, and I wish more of the mounts would have that sort of thing, like extra animations and spins and that sort of thing.
They're getting there. I mean, I think that was really...
life.
What?
It gives them more life, I think.
Right, instead of just this, like randomly shaped elevator that moves you up, down, left, right, forward, backwards. Is how I would describe the original flying mounts with flat animations.
Yep, that's exactly what they are. They move in a very, very, I don't want to say robotic.
Patterned movement?
I don't know what the word for it is, but it's exactly what you said. Like, it's exact, like a perfect axis, perfect y-axis, x-axis, z-axis. It's almost, flying a mount is like using an Etch-a-Sketch almost.
Sure, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
It shouldn't feel that way. It really shouldn't.
Yeah, and well, they're getting a lot better at that. I mean, like with the Sky Golem, and now with and the store mounts are a lot better at this too. I mean, they're store mounts, and take that as you will. But I don't see a problem with it, and it's clearly bleeding into the main game as we go on. I think it was just more of that they needed to figure out how to do it, because I mean, I know from my own work and stuff that I do that you can get very comfortable in the way that you design things. And that can make things faster and easier. So their designers and programs might have gotten comfortable with, I can just, program this like this, and then it'll work like all the others. It just kind of looks different. It makes different noises. And that allows them to make things faster. But now they're like wanting to create, like you said, a more lifelike mount. And so it's taking a bit more time for them to figure out how to do that, because Warcraft, even though they've pushed that engine as far as it can really go, and they continue to push it farther, I've imagined that they're still learning things like how to make the Sky Golem do this weird weaving motion in the air while it still flies straight forward and stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate them taking the extra time to do that, because it really brings more life to the mounts. It makes them seem more interesting, as opposed to just 1,000 mounts that do the exact same thing and move the exact same way, but just look different.
Right.
Especially for the store mounts, where that added value really feels like it's more worth it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember when it came out, but did the Heart of the Aspects, the big gold dragon, did it actually come out before Mists of Pandaria?
I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I feel like it did, though.
I bet it did, and it was like because I feel like all of these are like test things, right? So like the Heart of the Aspects tested things for the Cloud Serpents in Mists of Pandaria. Aspects release date. When did Heart of the Aspects come out? Google, why are you failing me? Patch 4.3. So yes, that was the third patch of Cataclysm. So that would have been Firelands?
Perhaps.
No, that would have been the I think 4.3 was the end time dungeons, all of the extra stuff before Dragon Soul came out.
Yeah, actually that does sound right.
And so, that means that they probably had like a year before Mists of Pandaria came out to really let that be like a test out there for the Cloud Serpents. So, maybe this Rylak thing was along the same lines.
Could be. Would make a lot of sense. It seems like that's kind of Blizzard's standard thing. Is like test it out on a small scale and then launch things on a big scale. Kind of like Timeless Isle and Draenor. It's the exact same thing, just in a smaller mount-specific testing center, I guess. I'm not really sure how to describe it.
And I can't wait to get to the point where the Coalfist Gronling comes out in 6.2, and you have the people who are like, oh man, first day, Coalfist Gronling, and then 6 months later, the end of the expansions come around, people are like, it hasn't shown up yet! Like Evan with the selfie camera. It took him 4 months to get it, or something ridiculous.
Well, it took me quite a while, too.
Yeah, and I got it on the first day. Very first day, it was in my mission log.
Well, you got lucky on that one.
See if I get lucky again with the Coalfist Gronling. All right, let's go ahead and get into a closer look. Welcome to a closer look, everybody. This week, we'll be discussing the recent WoW developer Q&A with Ian Hazzikostas, lead game designer and community manager, Lore. There was a lot of things that were talked about. We are not going to talk about all of them. I will tell you that there was a lot of fat that was able to be trimmed from this Q&A. They had 4 weeks for people to submit questions, so they collected the questions and organized them the way that they wanted to answer them. And so some of the questions I really feel like they could have just done without, and then they took just a few questions at random at certain times from the chat room because it was live. But most of them were just clarification of what they were talking about rather than actual questions that might have had any weight bearing on them. So the first thing is, well, I'm sure you've heard it from somewhere by now, but I'm going to let you know anyway. We're going to fly in Draenor! Sweet Lord. I am really hoping that after this we don't have to talk about this anymore. So, there will be flying in Draenor. The angry people got angry enough that Blizzard decided to reevaluate things. There will be flying in patch 6.2.x. They have a little bit of things that they need to adjust and tweak, some bug fixes and stuff, and a couple things apparently aren't completely ready for you to fly over them. They obviously needed them to be mostly ready because of, Aviana's Feather and the workshop. And it's going to require... it's not going to cost you anything, so you don't have to pay 5,000 gold like you did in Pandaria. Instead, you have to complete an achievement, which is the Draenor Pathfinder achievement, which Florian mentioned just a moment ago on the Soaring Sky Terror mount. This is going to require you to explore Draenor, so you have to reveal every inch of the map, be a lore master of Draenor, which means complete all the quests in Draenor. You need to complete securing Draenor, which I'm not sure what that is. I couldn't find anything on it. If I had to guess, I'm going to guess that means that you have to do all of the oh darn it, my map just appeared. I'm going to guess that means you have to do what are those things called? The bonus zones or whatever? Bonus objectives? That's
what that is. You have to do the mission, the Apexis mission, in each of the bonus objective zones in order to get securing Draenor. You have to do one of each.
Oh, good job. Okay. Master Treasure Hunter, which means you have to find 200 of the hidden treasures across Draenor. And you have to be a Tanan diplomat. And this is the one that most people are angry about, is that you need to be revered with the 3 different factions that are going to be in Tanan Jungle. One is based on your faction, the other one is the new Arakoa faction that's going to be there, and the other one is the Saberon faction. But you only have to be revered, and I think that's the thing that people are forgetting, is that revered is not very big. So now that we have this detail, Florian, what are your thoughts on this requirement?
I think these requirements in general are pretty great. The main reason they didn't want flying in the game was so they could continue to have people on foot and design the gameplay specifically for people on foot. You design it because you know where people are going to go. You know they have to go around this corner, around this hill, on a road in order to get somewhere. And you can design the encounters around that. You can put enemy placement around that. You can position the treasures based around that. And the thing is, once you've completed all of these achievements, then you've already done everything there is to do. You've found pretty much all the treasures. You've done all the quests. You've hung out with all the dudes that give you the reputations. I assume that's how you get reputations. And at that point, there's no reason to keep you on a ground mount anymore because you've already done all the ground mount based gameplay. So it seems to me like a really good sort of concession to the players who want flying. This way you can keep the gameplay actually challenging and actually still properly designed for the rest of the player base, and the people who've already beaten that content into the ground can just fly everywhere and have all the convenience they desire.
Right. And that is the thing, is that it will be unlocked across all of your characters once you've done it on one. So your alts, they're not going to reforce you to do all this stuff over again. So, you know, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Because it was always frustrating after you leveled a character up to level 100 in like Pandaria, and then you get another one up there and you just have to do the same exact process over again.
Yeah. It was pretty annoying, to be honest. And I like that they're making more use of the account binding with lots of different things here in Warlords of Draenor, and I think that's one of the best uses, because once you've experienced the character content on one character, I mean, you're done with it. I mean, the questing in Draenor is great. It's really fun. It's varied. It's got a good plot line. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the questing. But once you've done it once or twice, it gets really old really fast.
Yeah,
So I appreciate this.
I had like 690s in Pandaria, and I still only have 100 in Warlords because I just don't want to quest through it again. And there's not enough dungeons, and the dungeons don't give nearly enough experience to warrant dungeon leveling like you do when you're leveling from, 1 to like 90. 1 to 85, I guess I actually should say, because 85 to 90 with the terrible Pandaria dungeons is not really something you should do. So maybe this will help me level up some alts some more, because right now it's a big old pile of no for me when it comes to the thought of trying to actually level up further.
Definitely. I understand that feeling all too well, and especially for the people who like a lot of alts. It can be suffering going through all that stuff again. So I feel Blizzard's being really nice about this by making the flight account bound rather than character bound.
Well, and I was of the stance originally that if they wanted to give us flying after the entire expansion was over, that would be fine. Just because at that point the expansion's over. And I feel like this does that same thing. Like you're saying, you will have done everything that is available for you to do technically in the expansion after you do this. And so they don't, like you said, they don't have a reason to keep you on the ground. So this essentially means the same thing. It just means that you could get it earlier if you wanted.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question though. This is some pretty hefty requirements, all things considered. I mean, there's a lot here in terms of what you have to do. Because I just checked myself. I thought I had collected a ton of treasures. I only have 118, so I still have 82 to go collect. And then I still have some questing to do in Nagrand and Frostfire Ridge before I get the Lore Master one. And so how many people on percentage do you think are not going to do this?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think that the flying crowd is definitely going to do it, but how much of the percentage of the people is the flying crowd is the real question. Because I know there are plenty of people like you and me who don't really care that much about the flying. I personally am not going to shoot for it. I'm going to, if I get it done by accident, which I probably will, then I'll go ahead and take the flying, but it's not a huge priority. So I don't know how many people are going to go for it, really. It's hard to tell.
You think it'll be a pretty small number of people that actually receive flying in Draenor?
Well, the people who are freaking out about flying, they're definitely going to jump on it, I'm pretty sure. But as for just like the general population, I don't think that many people are going to bother going through all that effort. They're just going to be like, it's way too damn much work. I can just take flight points.
Right, and the flight points are pretty good. I still would like a little bit. I really actually just want the flight points to be faster. Like, I think flight points should fly faster than my mount does, and they don't.
They should.
Or if they do, they don't fly fast enough in comparison.
Yeah, the Blizzard still has a ways to go with flight points. Like, they've gotten like the positioning better of flight points, like they're more that are conveniently located, but there's still nothing that makes them significantly better than a flying mount. Plus, they cost money, which a flying mount doesn't. The only advantage is you can alt tab out and like check your Facebook or whatever while you're going somewhere.
Which I do on my smartphone anyway.
Exactly. So you're gaining nothing.
The next thing that they went on to say is that reputations and warlords are pretty terrible. They recognize this. They're too much of a mob brand, and they admit that their knee-jerk reaction to how much hatred they got from the Miss Pandaria dailies. 6.2 reputations are supposed to be better. We'll see. I don't know if have they ever done reputations right, Florian?
That's a good question.
I feel like the best I remember reputations is when I got reputation with somebody for wearing their tabard while doing anything.
That's one good way to do it. Another reputation that I felt was good was the Argent. Was it the Argent Dawn? It was the Argent somebody reputation in the ICC.
Ashen Verdict.
Instance. Those guys, Ashen Verdict, right? Because, you're going to be doing ICC a lot, so you do ICC a lot, and they give you rewards for doing ICC a lot. It makes sense.
And you got free tiered rewards through ICC in the form of the ring, so it felt like you were naturally progressing rather than just waiting for the bar to be completely full at Exalted to actually get anything that was relevant. Because I think that's one of the bigger problems with reputations is normally reputations, until you get Exalted, give you nothing that matters.
Exactly. That's a consistent problem. Across reputations in general, it's just like you either get everything or you get nothing, and it's such a long grind for a lot of these reputations from neutral or friendly up to Exalted that just a lot of people just don't bother. And I think if they put stepping stones in there, it would probably help a lot. And I'm hoping Tanan has something like that.
We'll see. I mean, to get flying though, all you have to do is get revered, which is so much easier than Exalted.
Definitely.
I mean, to get to revered getting to revered is the same amount of reputation as it takes all over again to get to Exalted. It takes 21k to get to revered, and then a whole nother 21k to get to Exalted. But in that, getting to that, you have the 3, 6, 12,000 tiers of friendly. Wait, does it just go friendly to revered? No. Honored. Honored's the other one. Friendly, honored, revered. So there's tiers in there that make them not take as long, but everything you already did all over again to get to Exalted just always feels so depressing. You're like, that's just so far away. Next, Garrisons over-reward players. Removed content that was supposed... the Garrisons removed content that was supposed to keep players engaged. So, with all of the things that Garrisons just hand us, that's one of the reasons that we feel that we don't have anything to do, because Garrison's already doing it for us. I.e., Facebook game that you click and say, go get my stuff for me, I'll check on you later.
Definitely, and that is why I don't use the Garrison anymore. I stopped using it around December-ish because something just feels really wrong about just clicking a few buttons and then you somehow get rewarded with raid gear. So I just stopped doing it, and I feel better about it. But the thing is, now there's just not enough to do. And I'm glad that he said something about it, because that's kind of what I was theorizing, and that confirms it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I mean, Garrisons were like one of the ultimate tests, really. Like, they were like, this is, a big feature, big project, and, it's probably just going to be written off. I mean, they said that they're not going to be doing Garrisons you won't be bringing your Garrisons or your followers or anything like that into the next expansion. They might look at redoing the model in some way, but they're not moving forward with us, which is fine by me, because they were really cool for a month, and now it's just they've taken way too much away from the game, and I think that they just need to go away. Not from Warlords, just not. I wouldn't want to see Garrisons again next expansion.
Yeah, Garrisons sounded like a good idea, and in theory, to some degree, they were fun. You know, kind of gave me Warcraft flashbacks to proper Warcraft, not World of Warcraft. But all in all, I don't feel like they were that successful, and they almost feel like they took more from the game than they brought to it. So I would be happy to not see them ever again.
Because they're just like communism. Communism is an awesome idea on paper, but it never works when you actually try and implement it. And Garrisons actually almost are communism. We're going to give everyone the same amount of everything. That way nobody can be upset.
I never thought about it that way.
Oh my god!
That does make a lot of sense.
Oh, I just realized this.
That makes a whole lot of sense, and it kind of makes me feel bad about things.
If you ever want to understand why communist Russia and communist Germany didn't work for people, you are living in communist Warcraft right now. That's going to be the title of the episode, Communist Warcraft. Communist Azeroth. I don't know, one of those.
Too many garrisons brought down the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very solid theory.
Well, I didn't even actually make this correlation until now, but it really is. They're just trying to give everybody the same amount of everything, and that makes nobody happy.
Well, it doesn't make sense in an MMO because, you know...
It doesn't make real sense in real life either. It's literally just something that's beautiful on paper because you're like, oh yeah, we'll just give everyone everything, and then, you know, no one will... You know, it's like, we'll pay everyone the same thing. Everyone gets paid the same thing in Garrisons. Everyone will have access to the same stuff, and it'll be great. It'll be a utopia, and it actually just doesn't work at all because, well, we're human, and everyone wants something different. We don't all want the same thing. And we always want something that somebody else doesn't have.
Very true, very true. And that's a big part of MMOs, you know, you start playing, like, I remember the first time, when I first started out, I saw a level 60 dude in, like, full tier 3, and I was like, that dude is awesome. I want to be just like him.
How can I get that?
Exactly, and that motivates you, you know, there's a reason there's a sort of class system, and I don't mean class like druid or hunter. I mean classes like, there's the top tier, middle tier, and low tier players, and, you know, there's a reason for that, and it's a natural thing, and I have no problems with it. That's part of what makes an MMO great.
Yep, and I think a little bit of that was taken away by transmog too. Everyone's running around in super epic gear now, and it kind of takes away from things.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I really love transmog.
True. It kind of takes away from the people who put in all that effort to get the really cool high tier gear. I honestly kind of feel bad for them because it's not like it used to be where you'd see a guy walking around in like tier 2 or tier 3 and you'd know what that is and you'd know that he's like a top tier raider, or walking around with Thunder Fury. It's not a thing like that anymore.
No, everyone's walking around with Ashgandis and, you know, the Great Furnace or whatever it's called, the just Sargeras' hammer that drops in Fireland. Sargeras. Wow. Ragnaros' hammer. Ragnaros' hammer that drops in Firelands. Sargeras. Sulfuron, thank you. And, you know, we're all walking around in epic. I'm actually walking. My transmog right now is actually the boosted gear for my priest because these white robes look pretty nice. But I mean, there's plenty of people that are running around and just, you know, ridiculously epic stuff from Old War or still have the ICC stuff. And, you know, it's still cool to see, but also at the same time, then you inspect them and you're like, oh god, he's, you know, item level 700. He would smush me. Anyway, moving forward. World content is imperative to MMOs. While the leveling experience in Warlords of Draenor is great and Blizzard is really happy with it, they fell short in end content. And I think this really goes into, you know, because we've said already that, you know, that Warlords is really, really good when you level up the first time, and then after that it's kind of... But the thing is that there's not a whole lot to do afterwards, and that's really the biggest issue I think that the expansion has. And it's so surprising to me that I feel this way, because what do we have... What? Okay, so like I was super. I'm still really into Warcraft, but I was super into Warcraft in Miss Pandaria. I thought Miss Pandaria was fantastic. I was maintaining like 5 alts regularly and leveling up more, and now I am playing one level 100 like maybe 1 or 2 days a week. And what did we have in Miss Pandaria, Florian, that we don't now that is missing? That is the difference here. Is there? What? I'm just going to stop talking and hope that you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I think there are a lot of things. The main thing I think is that there's a lack of just general. There's just not enough to do. It's just a general lack of content. Let's put it like that. Like there's less stuff to do. There aren't as many interesting dailies to do, and the dailies that are there don't really get you any kind of worthwhile reward. I mean, it's like, yeah, the little toys you can get out of dungeons, they're cute, but they don't really do anything for you. They don't upgrade your gear. They don't make you any stronger. They don't significantly impact your play experience. Whereas the dailies you did in Pandaria actually got you valor points and reputations that helped you get more gear, and they actually mattered in a sense. And as you said before already, a lot of stuff got replaced by garrison missions, which don't really feel like you can spend a lot of time playing your garrison and feel like you've actually done nothing at all, because you really haven't. There's almost no gameplay there. And I think a lot of it also is down, like, for the raiders, at least, I think raiders are spending the same amount of time as they previously did, because the raiding community is basically the same.
Right.
It's just players for whom raiding is not their primary source of gameplay, they're kind of getting screwed over, because there's not as much casual content, not enough content for the people who aren't just serious raiders.
Well, and
I feel like
I think you made a really good point with the Valor Point thing, because there was, like, I feel like Apexis crystals were kind of supposed to be a way to replace Valor Points, but there's not enough ways to get Apexis crystals. You don't get them from dungeons. Like, if I got some Apexis crystals from doing heroic dungeons, I would do heroic dungeons more, but I don't. So I have no reason to do heroic dungeons. And, like, mythic dungeons are going to give me higher level gear, but it's still not going to, like, those mounts that cost like 5,000 Apexis crystals, I would like to get those, but I don't want to do the lame daily. I never had a problem with Valor Points. I had a problem with some of the ways. I had a problem with the amount that you got from different places. Some places would only give you like 5, and some would give you like 150, and I think that was the problem with them. Whereas Apexis crystals, I don't know. I just wish that. I think I legitimately miss Valor Points. And I think another thing that the problem is that nothing in Mist of Pandaria, nothing in Warlords of Draenor is bind to account. Whereas we had plenty of things that were bind to account, even if we're just talking about like the the Timeless Isle gear, that still gave me something to do on my main that I could enjoy doing, that also went towards something if I was grinding the Xiaohao rep, which I was, that I could feed to my alts to make them feel more relevant. But now with Tanan Jungle, I don't know how excited I'll be, because I'll still have to do things on my alts to get them ready, rather than being able to enjoy my main and then enjoy my alts at a lot less of a not having to devote as much time to my alts to get them to the same level, whereas I could spend more time on my main in Miss Pandaria. I don't know. Because there
I don't either.
Because there is this problem that, a whole bunch of people are saying there's nothing to do, but at the same time I recognize that there's not a whole lot less to do now than there was at the end of Pandaria or at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. But at the same time, like Wrath of the Lich King, we had 13 million players compared to the 7 million now. But for my personal experience, I was enjoying Miss Pandaria all the way up until the expansion came out. So I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know what we're missing, and I would need more time to evaluate. Moving on. Too much gold from your garrisons. Yeah, you get way too much gold from your garrison, especially if you do treasure hunter missions with treasure hunters. Oh god, yeah, people are raking in like 20k, 30k, 50k a month easy with their garrisons, and so they're looking at ways to reevaluate that a little bit, maybe make diminishing returns on gold from your garrisons either after the expansion or across multiple characters. They're not sure. It's something that they're looking at, because if you and this is something you can do, and I highly recommend you do it. Just get like 2 or 3 characters to level 100. Use your get it to level 3, so you get the missions that give it extra gold, and make every single one of your followers a treasure hunter, and you will just bring in like 1,000 gold a mission. And then, if you just do your missions every day, you just make ridiculous amounts of money out of your garrison, because you're doubling and tripling the gold that you get. And it's just a ridiculous amount. You can completely pay for your Warcraft this way and still have gold left over.
Yeah, they're overpowered. The garrison missions are, and I'm glad they're going to get fixed, because a lot of people almost feel forced to have a whole bunch of alts to grind gold. I don't, because I don't care that much about gold, but...
You don't have a reason to care about gold. Your garrison is giving you everything you need. You don't have to buy gear. You don't have to buy crafting mats.
Yeah, but there's always that OCD guy who's like, I have to maximize everything.
Sure.
And then they end up having a bunch of high-level alts that they really don't actually need, just so they can farm garrison missions.
Right.
Sort of the Facebook game growing out of control. They've created a monster, and now they're trying to contain it.
And I think this is another good reason why garrisons won't be moving forward. And let me get your opinion on this real quick, Florian. Do you think that with all of the problems that they've had, I mean, sure, they lost some subscribers in the Mist Pandaria, but we've had a lot of very large, very vocal, very angry problems that have arisen in Warlords of Draenor that I don't really recall us having previously. Do you think this might push them to move into the next expansion faster as kind of like a cut your losses, write this off on, and then just, leave it back there and move forward? And so, maybe try and push us to the next expansion sooner so that they can get away from all of this, since it is just continuously building into more and more problems?
I don't think it's necessarily something that would push them to cancel Draenor earlier or move on earlier. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I definitely think it's something that they're going to think twice about next time if someone stands up and is like, hey, what if you had a cool base?
So we already did that once. It went really bad. No.
Yeah, I think because garrisons are a cool idea. They could be great, but it's just that the current implementation of garrisons is not very good.
I just really hope we get a very, very in-depth advanced player housing next expansion. That's the big feature that I would like to see next expansion is really well done player housing.
I think that would be an awesome feature, and I would love to see Blizz go full in on player housing and just do it properly. I think that would be really great.
I think that I think it might be just because they will do instance player housing. It'll be exactly like garrisons are. All of them, they might actually let you choose different places for your house. Unlike, the original thought for garrisons, there was, 3 places you could put it. There'll be a few different places you can pick to put your house, and it's just going to be everyone's house is in one of those zones, and you have to, join the group and, view their house or whatever. Same way you do with the garrisons. So, I mean, it'll be a lot easier now because they already have kind of that process, and then they just have to, figure out, essentially, I'm feeling the biggest thing will be the UI and the design tools for designing your house. If you're able to put a chair anywhere in your house, they have to figure out a way to do that. Which I think it might not be too difficult because you can, place your items on the ground if you have a Blingtron or something like that. Or, priests have their feathers, if they just do a little ghosty outline of the item. But I think rotating it and repositioning it might be one of the things that they would have to figure out. But, maybe they're already way ahead on that. I don't know. Just something that would be neat to see. Naval missions will be longer and require less micromanagement. So you won't have 45-minute missions. It's like all of them will be the real long ones. And similarly, they will have the bigger, better rewards. So you'll have less followers that go on the naval missions, less naval missions, longer missions with bigger and better rewards. So you won't necessarily need to log on every 45 minutes to do them. Which I think is good, right?
That's definitely good, because one of the biggest problems with the garrisons was the Facebooky nature of you need to come in and log in 30 minutes to check on your garrison mission, which it was basically in Facebook equivalent to check on your friggin' farm crops or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to see that go and see it just become, because if the missions are long enough, then it basically becomes like a daily. And dailies are cool. Nobody's ever had a problem with dailies.
Well, they've had a problem with too many dailies or forced to do them for rewards. Because that was a problem in Pandaria, was that there was like 40 dailies that you needed to do a day, and if you didn't do them, you couldn't get anything relevant to progression. So,
very true. Very true. And I don't know. I just feel like things are going to be a lot better with the naval missions. I think it's sort of that issue again where Blizzard prototypes it first, that the garrison missions were the prototype, and now the naval missions are going to integrate what they've learned from the garrison missions and bring their full potential to fruition. That's what I think would probably happen here.
I guess we'll just wait and see, right?
Yeah, I'm keeping a positive attitude.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to go. In regards to all of the guilds that have been disbanding because of Mythic content being too difficult or anything like that, Blizzard pointed out that guilds always disband all the time with every raid, every expansion. It happens a lot. New ones form and take their place. They are not concerned with it whatsoever. So, the fact that Blood Legion broke up, Blizzard doesn't care. They're like, there'll be a new Blood Legion. Big guilds have fallen apart before. Big guilds will fall apart in the future. I mean, up until this expansion, Paragon wasn't a thing. Like, they were really, really huge in Wrath of the Lich King, and then they just kind of fell off through the next two expansions, and then they came back. Good for them. But so Blizzard's just like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know why this was even a discussion point, because that's just something that naturally happens. Guilds have a natural life cycle, and every guild is going to end at some point, even top ones. So it's not that big of a deal when they end. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
I think Blizzard's right to just not be worried about it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and if... The thing is that a guild disbanding doesn't mean really anything. If they get a whole bunch of feedback that, like Blood Furnace on Mythic, I mean, more people have killed Blackhand on Mythic than they've killed Blood Furnace, and that says something to Blizzard of like, okay, we need to look at Blood Furnace because, that must be a problem. What's happening? Whereas, like, if 10 guilds disband because Mythic's hard, there's like, whatever. Get good, noobs,
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely true. It's not that big of a deal. Everything is perfectly okay. There's nothing to be upset about, but for some reason somebody's upset about guilds because they asked this question. But it's not a big deal. Everything's going to be all right. Guild-wise anyway.
Yeah. People. More time is spent on art, gear, and bosses, etc. Mythic is actually very, very low on the resources it puts on the team. It's only about 10% of the work to make Mythic happen. Somebody was asking the question of that they were concerned that content was coming slower and all that because they were having to put so much more time into Mythic, and they wanted to assure us that that wasn't the case. And if you have any type of design experience at all, you know this, that making the textures and models and stuff takes the longest time. Whereas Mythic, all of that stuff is already done. It's just numbers and the new mechanic that, I mean, normally isn't real difficult because it's like paint it red and make it big, But so don't worry, they are working at the same rate that they always have been, nice and slow.
Yep, normal natural progression.
Yeah.
And I never thought Mythic would make that much of a big of a difference, because in any gaming development, your biggest development is always your actual art assets, your graphics, your level design, your what's that thing called? Goes in your ears. Music. Your music. That sort of thing usually takes up the majority of resources. Once you've got all that built, making another hard mode doesn't require that much extra effort.
Yeah, that's really just a bit of programming with some numbers, and that can always be changed later if you screw it up. I have a question for you, Florian, that's not related to the Q&A. With all of I mean, because a lot of people are like, you're just going to rehash old models for the garrison, blah, 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 blah. You're not actually going to put in any work. With that, we know that they actually had to almost completely redesign all of these buildings and stuff that we work with in our garrisons. How much of this do you think they can use? Because, I mean, the garrison buildings all use new textures and new models and stuff. They're real pretty. How much do you think they can take that and put it into and rehash it for future use? Because they're real pretty.
Sure they can, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure someone at Blizzard has been like, hey, let's take all this stuff and recycle it, because that's pretty standard. Like, Blizzard has been recycling since day one. In fact, we've talked about many dungeons that are basically just a ton of recycled old models with nothing new at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see that stuff get reused.
Well, and that's the reason that I asked, because, like, they had a whole bunch of little sessions and stuff telling us and showing us, like, yo, we spent a lot of time and a lot of money designing everything for the garrison, and, while it's probably a shame that garrison is kind of flopping, that also tells us that, now they have these to reuse later. Would you have any problem with them reusing any of these things for, future towns or whatever in the next expansion?
Nope, not a problem at all.
They look real good, so.
I mean, if they've already got this functional art, then if they reuse that, it's basically just saving them time and development on future content, which means we get more content with less wait time. Like, there's no loser there. Everybody wins. Blizzard wins because they save money. We win, we get more content.
And at a faster pace, presumably.
Presumably, yes.
We can hope.
Yeah, well, that's never guaranteed, of course.
Right.
Nothing's
Raid
guaranteed.
lengths. They wanted to touch on raid lengths, and they said that the average boss should only last about 5 or 6 minutes. Final bosses are special because, well, they're normally big and epic and have unique phases or whatever, but they should never go over 15 minutes. And if it does, then that is a problem, which, I mean, means that they need to take some time and look at some things, because they had a couple, like Imperator Margok, they're like way too long of a fight. Garrosh was, really almost pushing too long of a fight. Iron Maidens, if you do a third boat phase, can be too long of a fight. And it was something that we talked about previously, of that you don't want to be fighting somebody for 15, 20 minutes to finally get to their last phase, which is the hardest phase, as always, and then wipe to that and just have to reset, fight for 20 more minutes just to try that again. And it's a terrible feeling. I've done it and nobody likes it, because it's like, you can do that first bit real easy because you've done it so many times, but it takes so long to get through it just so you can die within 30 seconds to the ability that you've only got to practice against once.
Yeah, I'm really glad they're addressing this, because Imperator Morgok in particular was way too damn long. And any kind of fight you have that lasts more than, well, like they said, 15 minutes, at that point it's no longer a boss fight. It's basically a marathon.
Yeah. That's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun for anybody to do a fight that long, because it becomes less about skill and more about endurance. It's not like, do you have the skill to play this? It's, do you have the skill to keep playing this over and over again for 20, 30, 40 minutes? At a certain point you get tired and you're just not having fun anymore.
Well, that's like the first Imperator Margok kills were like 40 minutes or something, just not cool.
Crazy long. I think it was like 45, 48, something like that.
Yeah, and no. Just no. I could not imagine fighting something for 30 minutes and then losing and having to start all the way over. not in Warcraft. I mean, if I forget to save in an RPG and then I die to the boss and I have to go back 2 hours, that's my fault. But, you know, in games like this, that is just so no. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. It's just a big ball of no. So I really hope that they've taken that into consideration going into the future. I will look greatly forward to seeing what the boss times are for Hellfire Citadel and whatever we have coming. Demonology is the best Warlock spec. This is friggin' news to me. Anyway, apparently it's the absolute best Warlock spec, but it's the most complicated. You normally have to have add-ons to manage it. And because of all the differences with like how much demonic spirit or whatever you're generating, it's going to be nerfed in 6.2, and they literally said it is time for demonology to be the worst spec for a while, and they're planning on doing a future complete overhaul of it later. Florian, you played a warlock. Was demonology broken?
Well, at the time that I played demonology was broken, but not broken in the sense that it was overpowered. It was broken in the sense that it was useless. Then it became overpowered. When it became overpowered, the other specs, specifically the destruction spec, was nerfed into the ground. And now I'm at the point where I just don't care what happens to warlocks anymore. I played demonology, they nerfed it into the ground. I played destruction, then they nerfed that into the ground. You know, it's...
Well, and I feel like Warlocks always have this problem of, like, Warlocks often are one of the top DPS classes, but because they're always on top with one of their specs, that spec gets shot down, and then it, like... I feel like Blizzard is never happy with where Warlocks are. Like, they haven't touched Rogues in like 6 years or something ridiculous because they're real happy with where Rogues are. So they don't need to do nearly as many changes to Rogues. But I feel like a couple classes just keep getting just completely just like, no, turn the dial way too far in the other direction. Oh, that doesn't work either. Dial all the way in the other direction. Oh, that's terrible too. Rips dial out of the machine, throws it away.
Yeah, their Blizzard has this problem that we addressed earlier, actually, with their reaction to the dailies in Mists of Pandaria, where something goes wrong, and then they could throw everything completely in the other direction, just like completely overcorrect on everything. And they do this on class balance too. A spec is too strong, nerf into the ground. A spec is too weak, make it disgustingly overpowered. I think the design team just needs to have like a sit down and just relax for a minute.
Yeah, breathe, guys, breathe. Take a drink of water.
They get very, very upset when something isn't balanced, and then they just go way out of control. They just need to chill for a little while, you know?
Well, especially because there's some classes that, like I said, rogues, they haven't really done anything with rogues for a real long time. And then like warlocks and shamans constantly are being changed. All the time are being changed. And like some people will be like, well, you could say that my class got changed. It didn't get nearly changed that much. Like people, I remember people were like being like, man, priest just got completely overhauled. They really didn't get changed that much. Their classes still work the same. The only ever time that priest really got changed was in Cataclysm when holy priest got the chakra system. But there was one time and it adapted quickly, but other than that, priests haven't changed much. But like warriors haven't up until, I mean, they gained something, which was gladiator stance, but all the other specs really kind of stayed the same at this point. They haven't changed a whole lot. Death Knights, though, get changed a lot, just because they're always so powerful. And I think that's what it is the most powerful ones are the ones that get changed very, very heavily. Because they're like, oh man, that's way too strong. And like you said, they nerf it way too hard, and then they feel bad and buff it way too much. So the classes that they're comfortable on are just being, somewhat ignored, which is fine, because they're just fine where they are. But they can't settle on the other ones. And that seems odd to me. Like, just take a step back, take a look, and just be like, oh, this just needs move the decimal slot.
Yeah, I think that would be a better move for them to just kind of take their time with it a little more. I don't know. I guess that's their unique style of balancing. if that makes any sense. I don't agree with it, but it's entirely up to them how they want to run things.
Well, and on the same note, they went to say that ability pruning that they did for Warlords of Draenor needs reevaluated. Some classes lost too much, some didn't lose enough. Which, I mean, I think all of the complaints that happened when the ability prune showed this, there was more complaints than just, you're taking away something I like. It's like, no, you're taking away something important. And I think that they just really just kind of took knives to things and hoped that the end result would be acceptable.
Yeah, they did. I haven't had that many problems with the ability prune. I felt it actually just went okay in general. I know a lot of people are very upset about it, but I feel like it was okay. It wasn't like a huge failure or anything like that.
Well, like me, I didn't notice the ability prune so much, but the things that I did notice is the drastic changes that they made. Like, elemental shamans were really, really good in Mists of Pandaria, and they completely reworked everything about them, and now they just feel kind of lame and weird, and they don't really work the same way because of the way that they changed all of their talents and stuff. And it's just like, I would have rather you take an ability away than change the way my whole spec works.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense. But you know, I can't really understand why Blizzard chooses to do what they do. Some classes end up being way too complicated, other ones way too simple. And then they scream ability prune, and Demonology Warlocks still have, like, God knows how many abilities that they need just to do their normal rotations. I mean, like you said before, it's so many abilities that it's almost impossible to manage without add-ons. If you can't play it out of the box without add-ons, I think there's a serious problem there.
Yeah. Also, on that same note, Blizzard is starting to realize that they really don't like absorbs. So think Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins, you know, people that put lots of shields on things. They don't like them. Absorbs are almost always too good in Blizzard's data that they have. And the other thing, and I can attest for this being a Holy Priest, which is a throughput healer, which means I try and make your low number become high instead of making our high number stay high by making it not go down, is that it makes regular healers feel less effective. It feels real crap when you know you're a good healer, but there's two people that do nothing but put shields on everyone, and so you don't actually do any healing because they're just absorbing everything. They're just absorbing all the damage with their shields, so you start to be like, man, I feel like I suck. And it's not that you suck, it's just that their abilities are naturally better because absorbs, and that makes your abilities worse.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem when Blizzard's just changing things like that because they're like, we don't like the way this feels, and then completely ruining someone's class or gameplay style.
You know what we don't have in terms of healers? We don't have a healer that merely reduces damage. Like, if Power Word Shield, instead of giving them a shield for, you know, like whatever it is, 100,000 damage or something ridiculous, what if instead it just reduced all damage that they took by like 20%? Is that just too good?
That could be interesting in the way it would play out, but I don't know if I'd call it a priest anymore at that point when you're just reducing incoming damage. It doesn't feel like a healer. That feels like something like a mage, like it feels like a mage utility ability or something like that.
You heard it here first, folks. Mage healing spec. Florian called it.
There's no reason not to. I mean, like, it makes sense that you would be able to heal somebody with magic. I don't see why that wouldn't work.
I don't know. Because Warcraft, that's why. I'm actually the only healer here, and I can say that this is very true. I was a disciplined priest in Mists of Pandaria, and I was one of the most broken things ever. They're still stupid good, but now I'm a holy priest because I felt like doing something different, and I like holy better. But I do still notice that having a disciplined priest or a holy paladin in the group makes me feel less effective, simply because they're just absorbing the damage before I even get a chance to heal it. And, you know, while that's good for the sake of progression, I play this game for my self-satisfaction, and that takes away from that, which makes me not want to do it. So, and I think that's where what Blizzard is actually recognizing is that stuff like this is actually not working for the group as a whole. While it does work well for, being able to take down bosses, because even now still, every single raid that wants to actually be a raid needs to have a disciplined priest and other healers. That's just the way it works. You go, do we have a disciplined priest? Cool. All right, fill in the rest with whoever the hell you can find. Just make sure it's not and that's the other problem, is that the absorption classes, especially the same class, you can't really have two disciplined priests because their shields don't overlap.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we're all spamming flash heal on a dude, we might be overhealing him, but they all still work.
Well, that's just because mechanically shield healing is weird in Warcraft. I think when they originally developed the original mechanics of the game, I don't think anybody sat down and was like, it'd be cool if we had people healing with shields. I think it's just something that got added in later. It just that's why it works so awkwardly, and it's really hard to have multiple disciplined priests.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's just some weird design decisions.
Yeah. All right. Projects are light on dev time. So, there was a lot of outcry over why are you working on Twitter integration when we still haven't gotten the next raid? Or, the selfie camera must have eaten a ton of your guys' dev time since nothing out yet. Ian Hazzikostas went on to explain that no, those don't actually take a whole lot. Twitter integration was just a couple of guys, and it was meant for convenience of the people that are already using Twitter. It wasn't meant to encourage you to use it. If you did, right on, but, it was just a couple of people. And then the selfie camera was 2 people. One designer and 1 programmer, and that's it. And it took them a month or something small in their spare time, and it's just something extra. So it didn't take away from development at all. They were literally side projects that people were working on the side. And they finally got them done and into the game, so shut up.
Yeah, it's actually surprising how few people it requires to make a feature like that. And, I joked earlier about Twitter and selfie cameras just distracting Blizzard from raid content, but, it doesn't take a lot of people
but it was
to
a
do
joke.
This sort of thing.
Some people,
it was.
Some people were 100% serious about it.
Well, I don't know why those people are that upset. It's obvious that something like the selfie camera doesn't require as much effort as building an entire raid from the ground up, but I guess some people, don't understand as much about how games are made. Perhaps, I don't know. It's obviously something that doesn't require a lot of extra manpower and something that didn't sap a lot of resources from the team. If they had made an entire Twitter themed dungeon that was just advertising for Twitter, then I'd be mad.
That would be hilarious.
But it would be hilarious though. I'd probably be laughing more than I would be angry. But then I could understand them getting angry about it. But it's just Twitter integration. It's just a button you can press for convenience. Yeah. It's nothing to be upset about.
A thing that did eat up a ton of resources was garrisons. Garrisons ate up tons and tons and tons of resources.
A whole tier, I'm told.
Probably. I believe it. It's huge. Just the sheer number of graphics that had to be created for the garrison, since all of this is new. Ew. Yeah, ew. On the topic of content, they don't want to make content too inconvenient, like raiding used to be for some people. It was only 0.01% of people got to see the original Naxxramas. So they didn't want to make content too unapproachable, but they don't want to make it too easy either, because then you just blaze through it and then you're sitting there with your hand out waiting for more. So it's a difficult thing to balance, which, again, I feel like we've already said this a lot through this section of that, we're not game developers, and it's very hard to understand everything that goes into everything that Blizzard does, and I think balance of content and creation of content is the exact same thing. Would you agree?
They're very closely interrelated, yeah. You could say they're mostly the same thing.
Yeah, so the game keeps evolving, and I think that means that Blizzard has to keep relearning things that they thought they previously knew, and that makes it difficult for them to deliver it appropriately. And also, with how many people they keep having change in the team, it just keeps it's really hard to ever actually get to a comfort level where you could create what the community would look at is good timed, good, healthy amounts of content, because that definition keeps changing.
Definition of what? The healthy amount of content, you mean?
Yeah, and at what rate it's delivered.
That's true, but I think that's just because the standards in general are rising as the just MMO industry in general continues to evolve. You know, more content's being pumped out faster, and the player experience is improving, not just in World of Warcraft, but in other MMOs as well. So just expectations of the players are increasing. Like, there's more to do now than there has ever been in any previous iteration of World of Warcraft.
But it feels like so much less, and you're also able to full-on complete a lot of it a lot faster.
Exactly, because the standards keep increasing. And to be honest, Warlords of Draenor did release with less content than a lot of the other expansions. There aren't as many zones. There's not as much endgame stuff, not really any interesting daily quests. But in general, I think it's just that people are getting used to having so much more and more and more that it's just a rising standard that Blizzard is having to sort of fight against to keep up with.
Sure. All right, last one. The portals in Cataclysm made the world feel smaller because of how fast you traveled. Do you agree with this, Florian?
I do.
I do not.
Well, I'll disagree with you there. Because many of the zones in Cataclysm, if you asked me to point at a map and show you where they were, I can't tell you.
Oh, I can.
The reason why is because every time I went there, I got there through a portal. Like, I have no idea where this stuff is on the map. All I know is I went there at some point, and I went there through a magical hole in the air. So it kind of ruins the feel of immersion in the world, because you don't really go from zone to zone. You don't actually travel there. You're just kind of there.
At the same time, it didn't bother me. I don't really care for the whole, like, on one of my characters I was trying to farm Bastion of Twilight for something, I don't know. And I didn't have the portal to Bastion of Twilight yet, and I did not really care for having to fly all the way over from Stormwind to get there. It just, I didn't care. Sure, I guess it made the world feel bigger because it took me longer to get there, but I just wanted to get there.
Yeah, well, I completely disagree with that personally. So, like, for me, like, having the actual continuity of the world and having to travel through the world to get somewhere is a big part of it, or at least a big part of the immersion. Having portals and even Hearthstones and stuff just kind of almost hurts the experience for me, the same way that flying mounts do.
That's fair. All right, that is everything we have for the developer Q&A. There was probably at least twice of what we've talked about. If you want to go look at it, you can see all the little notes on MMO Champion. You can also watch it on both Twitch and YouTube. Just look up WoW developer Q&A, and it'll be like this. I think it's the second result right now on YouTube. So it's only like an hour long. So essentially as long as this section just took. And you can go over it. I will tell you now, it's not incredibly exciting. Ian Hazakostas is not exactly a public speaker. So, I mean, he just is kind of real boring to listen to, at least in my opinion. You might have a different one, but I'm letting you know now. Let's move on. Welcome to the mailbag, everybody. You can send your emails to thecastbar@gmail.com. Call and leave us a voicemail at 508-738-2278. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter at Castbar Podcast. And you can also leave us feedback and questions through our website at www.thecastbar.com. We only have one piece of mail this week, and it's not necessarily anything that it's not a question or anything. But our good friend Taikuta sent us an email. He said, "Hey guys, I just bought a Heroes of the Storm starter pack and have some extra codes. You can use them for yourself or give them away as you see fit." So we have I didn't even know that you could do this. Did you, Florian?
That you could just get extra codes?
Yeah, I didn't know that. regardless, we have a code for Lily, a code for Sonia, and a code for Zagara. So what I would like you to do is either, if you have Twitter, just tweet at us which one you would like. Because obviously if you already have Lily, you don't want to be randomly gifted Lily. So just tweet at us which one you would like. What do you want the hashtag to be, Florian? Castbar Heroes?
Castbar Heroes? Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. We should do that.
Okay, tweet at us which hero you would like with the hashtag Castbar Heroes. Or if you don't have Twitter, then just go ahead and send us an email. Just letting us know which one that you would like, and then there'll be 3 separate drawings. If you can ask for all 3, and you'll be in all 3. And we'll figure out a little bit more. Pull them in 2 weeks, you think, Florian?
It seems like a reasonable amount of time. Yeah.
All right, we'll pull them at the end of the month. So tweet at us, hashtag Castbar Heroes, or send us an email and let us know which ones you would like the chance to win. Let's go into the review, and we'll try and move through this quickly since Florian needs to go to formation soon. Welcome to the review, everybody. Every week we review something, whether it is a 5-man dungeon, a raid, a questline, a zone, a class, a spec, a battleground, item. Yes. We split the review into 3 sections: ambience, gameplay, and lore. Ambience is what you hear, what you see, what you feel. Gameplay is the numbers, the quests, etc., the mechanics, the trash, the actual game you're playing, and the lore is the story. This week we're going to be doing the 5-man dungeon Lower Blackrock Spire. We did Upper Blackrock Spire probably like 25 episodes ago. I could go onto the website and look, but I'm not going to at this moment because it is not entirely relevant at this moment in time. When Warlords of Draenor came around, we had a remake of Upper Blackrock Spire, but Lower Blackrock Spire was left behind to be in its original form, and we will be speaking about it now. So we still don't have Evan. He messaged us and said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. That's fine. Normally we each take a section. Since we don't have 3 people for 3 sections, Florian, do you want to just go back and forth on each section instead of giving the little header?
That sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, so we're going to jump into ambience first. What was the first thing that shouted to you about the ambience in Lower Blackrock Spire?
Man, this place is crazy dark. They need to get some better lighting in here.
Yeah, and you would think it would be a little bit more well lit with how much lava is in the place, right?
You would think so, but I guess, well, if you just leave the lava where it is with all the high ceilings they have, it's probably not going to shine that far. To be fair, like, they should really invest in more torches or something. Like, I can't see that being good for their eyesight.
Well, I don't know. I mean, in the movies, anytime you see someone go into a volcano, they have, tons and tons of light coming from the lava, and the lava is, like 300 feet down, and it's this big... I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings right now, when they're in Mount Mordor, and, the lava's way down there, but the whole mountain is lit up, and there's no torches or anything, it's just lava, but the lava is that bright, I don't actually know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with lava. Is it that bright?
I mean, it's bright. It doesn't let off a whole bunch of light, though. It's not going to be bright enough to light up a caverns as large as those in Lower Blackrock Spire. Okay.
I keep on getting signed out of Google. This is annoying. I'm trying to look at the show notes, and it's like, nope, sorry. One of the things that bothered me, though, about the ambience in this place, though, is when you first walk in the door, you get this real good, like, almost like battle music, it's that kind of, like, underlying, like, trombones with some drums, and then as soon as you get actually into the dungeon, it turns into this, like, surreal, magical, spooky stuff, and I felt like with all of the orcs and all of the grunge in this place, that it didn't really give me that spooky music. It should have left me with that battle music at the door.
Yeah, it didn't do as good of a job with the music. But
well, and I was expecting another transition later. I was like, battle music, we're going in, and then you get inside, and it's that first real big one when you're having to go down the bridges and the broken rockways and stuff, and it turns into the kind of, I'm gonna call it the creep music. And I expected, after getting a little bit farther, especially once you go down past like the troll lady, for us to get back to some battle music. It just never happened, though. You just get the creepy music the entire time.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it is a vanilla dungeon. It's very old, and a lot of our expectations on music and music changing throughout the story and throughout the dungeon are based on newer dungeons. I think back then it wasn't that big of a thing.
Sure.
So, it's just kind of like the way it was back in those times. So I'm not that worried about it. It didn't bother me that much because I was looking at it specifically as this is an old-timey time dungeon. It's not very modernized.
Right. I don't know. I think it would have just been better if they would have just stuck with that little bit of battle music. It set a better tone for me than the slower, less drummy, twinkle time music. As for the actual textures, though, I mean, it's all timeless stone, right? I mean, these textures don't really get old. Although, like, I noticed that, like, when Warlords came out, we got, the new models, and a whole bunch of new models went all over the world. All the humans, like the generic humans, got updated. All the orcs in this place and the trolls are still the old ones. They look really bad.
Yeah, they definitely weren't updated. They still got a lot of jaggy stuff going on, which I wonder if that's because they're just not standard. Because I've always wondered how many mobs in the world are just the standard, just racial bodies with stuff, with clothing put on them, and how many of them are just like, okay, this is model number 4 for like the troll voodoo priest, so it doesn't automatically get replaced when we update new troll models.
Right.
So, because clearly some of the older dungeons, like Lower Blackrock Spire, did that. These are not considered trolls in the game.
They're considered Voodoo Doctor number 193.
Yeah, they're considered this specific mob that uses this specific model. To the game, they are not trolls. Although to us, we recognize them as such.
Sure. Crazy programming mumbo jumbo.
Yeah. It was a strange time in vanilla.
Right, and I think that... I think the vanilla dungeons, more than anything else, need to keep getting updated versions instead of just like one at a time. I feel like they should start doing like 2 or 3. And I know they've been slowly working on it. I mean, we had the Scarlet, and in Muspendera we got Scarlet Monastery redone again, which I don't feel is necessary. I mean, I feel like they could have like redone like, I don't know, like Maradon or something. But with this one needs an update pretty soon. Just because like, you don't get a lot of the epic feel that you should, because like the troll priestess, who's a really frustrating boss, and we'll talk about why she's frustrating in gameplay, but she's like chanting to the Loa, the troll gods essentially, but there's nothing to really signify that because she's just kneeled down. I felt like you could have set a better tone if you would have given her some of like the magical aura things that they like to use now, some sort of magic coming off of the altar in front of her, or she's glowing in some way or something. And maybe it's just because it is vanilla, but I really feel like so many of the bosses in this place, you don't realize that they're bosses because they just blend in with everything around them. So this includes like the troll lady, the troll war chief guy that's below in the hallway, the orc that is in the like storeroom, the spider that's up there, like they all just blend in. Like you're like, oh, there's a boss here, holy lord, and they don't stand out enough to really even tell me that they're bosses throughout this entire dungeon.
That's very true. It's a consistent problem because like I played this dungeon exactly one time before I replayed it today for the purposes of this review. And I went through again this time, and like I was killing bosses and not realizing I'd killed bosses. I just look at my bosses and there would be more names crossed off, and I'm like, oh, I guess I killed some bosses, maybe?
Where was he at?
Dudes. Yeah, I thought they were just dudes hanging out. And it turns out they were not dudes hanging out; they were boss dudes hanging out, bossing. So they really could have done a better job differentiating the bosses.
Well, and also the bosses don't have any intro. Like, even some of the, you and I like to refer them to as the cookie cutter bosses, the bosses, 1, 2, 9. Even they normally are like, "What are you doing in my room, bro?" These are just like, "Oh,
Yeah, that's a pretty dramatic way of putting it, but yeah, that's pretty much what they are. They're just kind of...
They're literally just beefier mobs. They don't even have enough of a definition to be considered bosses.
That's true. I don't think any of them even had any really troublesome mechanics. That's why I didn't recognize them as bosses. I just saw them just doing whatever everybody else was doing, just auto-attacking like a spaz. And well, I just assumed they were regular mobs.
I can give you a lot of feedback for gameplay, which we'll go ahead and get ready to move into that so we can maintain some time. What would you like to grade ambience, Florian?
Ambience, I feel like, is probably the best part of this dungeon. It's held up really well with the stone textures, although the models look a little derpy, but I'm not going to judge them too harshly because it was
They just need replaced. Once they get replaced, the models won't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, if they'd coded them in as actual trolls and orcs, then it would have automatically happened. So it's not, it's not like they intended to make it look crappy. I'd give the place probably a B. I think it looks pretty good. It looks like a camp ready for war.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting about too. There's nothing that really wows me, and I think that if they would add just, like I said, just a little bit of spice as the best way I can think about it, like the magical aura I was talking about, and a little bit of ambience to the place that makes it a little bit more exciting, then it could easily be pushed into the A. And I think they don't even necessarily need to change much. Like, if they ever do redo the place, I don't think they need to change a whole lot in terms of what it looks like. Just update it. Like, I know some of them, they went really out of their way to overhaul, and I don't think this one needs that.
It definitely, well, not graphically, it doesn't need that much help.
That's generally, what I was saying.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. It's pretty all right the way it is. It just needs a little polishing, and it'll be fine. The problems with this dungeon are not graphical at all, that I can assure you.
So, now we'll go into gameplay. And I realize the thing that bugs me about Warcraft is that it's so hard to get a good gameplay reading now, even if you are at level for the dungeon. I did this dungeon before Cataclysm, and so I can tell you about it then, I can tell you about it now, and the thing that I can tell you most is that the troll lady is the most annoying thing ever, because she will transform 2 people into frogs for like a minute. And it is devastating if you don't have a way to get out of it. And she deals good damage, and she can disorient this person and transform this person and stun this person. She's terrifying. She is more difficult than any other boss in the dungeon, and she is the pug killer, if there ever was one, in terms of a dungeon. She was a very rude person, and led to bigger problems than any other dungeon boss that I can really think of right off the top of my head. Now she still tries to do those things now, but you're so powerful now when you're even leveling up that you're just like, smush her. All right, yeah, all right. The thing here, though, in this dungeon, there's a lot of trash here, right? And it's very easy to get too much of this trash.
Very true, very true. The trash, I feel, is like the most challenging aspect of the dungeon. Like a lot of the vanilla dungeons, it's a place where your tank has to be very careful about what they're pulling, how they're pulling, and where they're pulling it. And the rest of the group needs to be cognizant of where they are and where they're moving and where patrols are moving around, and know that they're not going to pull a bunch of extra stuff, because that's a consistent problem.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a big percentage of this dungeon's challenge comes from that type of gameplay.
Right. I think the place where the gameplay actually falls the shortest, that is the biggest problem for this dungeon, is that there are so many times in this place that if you don't know where to go, you will not figure out where to go. This place is extremely confusing for some people. And to proceed in the dungeon, there's literally a place where you turn around a corner, and it's a collapsed hallway. And if you don't know that there's this itty bitty little opening on the side there for you to squeeze around the rocks, you won't be able to go forward.
That was my problem. See, while I have done this dungeon 2 times, I've never completed this dungeon because I have no idea where the hell to go. It's a dungeon where you can get lost very, very easily. Things are very confusing. And, the first time I went through it, we went through with someone, I was going through with a party that included people who had actually been through it, and they couldn't even figure out or remember where the hell they needed to go. And, obviously I solo couldn't do that. So that's the main problem is the layout is very confusing, and the map definitely does not help. The map for this place is just so poorly designed, it's not even funny.
Yeah, it's real rough. I will say that. It's real rough trying to figure out how to get through here. Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say on it, really, besides, well, and and also there's places where you could, fall through the floor, and then there's just mobs everywhere. They literally set you up for failure, 6 times in this place.
It's very true. It was not very forgiving, but it's from vanilla Warcraft at a time when end the game was not supposed to be forgiving. So it's understandable in that sense. I just feel like it was way too unnecessarily confusing for what it was, and that part of the dungeon at least I think feels like it needs to be overhauled. Even if the aesthetics are fine, that aspect of the gameplay definitely isn't.
Right. What then would you like to grade gameplay? The only other thing, real quick before we do the grades, actually, I would also like to point out that the loot in here was pretty subpar. There was always better loot in Upper Blackrock Spire, which we've spoken about previously. That was the much more relevant dungeon than this one. Upper Blackrock Spire was done a lot more than this one. And the cool thing about this one, though, that I will say is that there's a pet in here. The spider drops a little spider that you can get, and bonus drops like that are, in my mind, really cool. Just because there's not enough of them in the game, in my opinion. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with you on that. It's nice to have something a little extra from a boss besides just pure gear.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people don't care, but I mean, every little thing like that does actually matter.
It definitely does. It definitely does. It gives the dungeons and the bosses a lot more flavor than they otherwise would have had.
Well, and it used to be. Now, I mean, with the way that it works, it just drops and you just add it to your your pet log or whatever. But if I remember right, it used to be that this thing actually took a few days to hatch, like the old like the raptor mounts in Pandaria did, or the eggs from the oracles in Northrend. So I mean, that was just a little bit extra, little bonus flavor that was involved. It was just a neat little thing that was extra. Florian, what would you like to grade the gameplay?
I'm going to grade it pretty harshly.
No, that's all right.
I don't feel like the bosses were bossy enough, and it's way too damn confusing. I'm going to give the gameplay probably a D+. D+.
That's not
you
as
gotta be harsh on it.
That's not as harsh as I expected. I expected you to be like F, because honestly, for me, the only thing for gameplay that exists here is that troll boss has just a little bit of difficulty to her. All of the other bosses, I'll tell you, are real easy. I mean, a couple of them, even before the power creep, a couple of them dealt, a lot of damage. Halcyon, which is a big wolf, that wolf could kill a party just because it was a giant wolf. Most people skipped Halcyon because she did too much damage. But I mean, the trash here, there's just a lot of it. It's not necessarily good trash. It can just be, it's just trash you have to pull carefully. But other than that, this dungeon is terrible. In terms of actual gameplay, I don't approve of this at all in terms of the design. And I think the gameplay is what needs the largest overhaul. maybe make it a little bit easier for people to figure out how to get through this place, whether that's an ambient thing or whatever, I'm not sure, but I think progressing through a dungeon goes into gameplay. So thanks to that spider pet drop, the interesting mechanics that go to that troll boss, I'm giving this a D-. If it wasn't for those, this would be an F for me. Just
Fair.
flat out.
Fair assessment.
So that puts gameplay at a D. I think we should ask Evan what his grades are for these if he has them, and I just want to see what he says. Maybe we'll try and ask him before he listens to the episode and finds out what our grades are, or before he can look in here and see what they are. All right, lore. Florian, is there any?
Is there any lore? Yeah, there's always lore. In this case, the lore is actually pretty beefy compared to what we've historically had. So, Lower Blackrock Spire, I don't think its lore's been updated like Upper Blackrock Spire has, so I'm just going to go with the old.
Yeah, you'd be correct in that. It's still the old stuff.
Yeah, so this is the home of the Dark Horde, which is like the regular Horde but darker. It was led by Ren de Blackhand, who is the son of the Blackhand that we know, whose first name I cannot remember for some reason. And they came here. They were pretty bro with the oh god, what is that dragonfly called? I can't remember anything today for some reason.
The dragon, I don't know.
The one with Neltharion and Onyxia and all those guys.
I legitimately have no idea. You said dragonfly, and my brain, in terms of WoW lore, went dragonfly, derp. I don't know.
Oh, the black dragonflight, right? Blackrock, black dragonflight. It makes sense.
Dragonflight. I heard fly, not flight. Dragonfly, and I was like, "There's an important dragonfly? Really? There is?
No, there's a dragonflight.
Flight.
A flight.
Flight. Got it.
And it is a black one. And it is in league with the Dark Horde at the Blackrock Mountain. So apparently the whole Dark Horde operation is part of a larger thing that is led by Neltharion and his dragonkin buddies. And yeah, they just pretty much hung around at Blackrock Mountain. I'm not really clear on what they did. Mostly because I didn't care, because it was mostly a threat to the Horde, and the Horde was not my problem at the time in vanilla.
Well, a lot of the lore for Blackrock Mountain is super old, because it goes back to, like, the first war, right? Or the second one?
We want to say first war? I'm not sure.
Super old. It
is super old. And a lot of the related quests are no longer in the game anyway.
Right, and if it wasn't for, like, it was their main outlet for attacking places like Stormwind and stuff, and it wasn't for the Alliance discovering the light and getting paladins, we would have lost to the armies that were in Blackrock.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I might be thinking about the other fortress that was over in, like, the Barrens or whatever, but I have I think I remember being Blackrock, because not Tolarian, one of the paladins, he has a statue outside of Blackrock, because he got killed there. Super old lore, it's hard to remember.
I don't know, I'm trying to bring it to mind right now, but my brain does not want to cooperate with me today.
Well, and also, like, it's lore that I don't grab from that often, so it's hard for me to remember. I don't know. It's not bad, though. I mean, but a lot of the lore is locked in... Oh, I just got kicked out of Warcraft. Anyway, a lot of the lore is locked away in what was classic Warcraft, and it's also locked away in some of the books. I forget what the name of the books are that actually have the story in here. Beyond the Dark Portal, I think, is the book that has this info in it. I think. I could be wrong, though. Again, stuff I read a long time ago, hard to remember. What then, Florian? Did you have more that you'd like to say on lore, or should we give it a grade?
I think it's about it. Like, the lore's, while it is important to the world, it's not super complicated. Like, this isn't a deep plot that we're experiencing here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I've said about all I can on it.
and it's just old. Like it's really hard to deliver lore that stems from a place that isn't in the game, because the lore for Blackrock actually comes from before Warcraft. Before World of Warcraft. It was way back when.
That is very true.
So, I mean, you would have to go, like, read a book and play, like, Warcraft 2 Humans versus Orcs to actually get a good deliverance of the lore for Blackrock. Because that's how old this is. The lore for this place is ancient.
Yeah, about as ancient as it can possibly be, really.
So
that's one of the reasons it's not very, like, great, deep story. Because back then, it was just, the lore was pretty much, we need an excuse for these humans to fight these orcs.
Orcs bad, humans good, fight them.
Bam. Exactly.
They in mountain, attack mountain. They have base over here, take out horde base. Yeah. Standard old RTS logic.
Yep.
They have base, go destroy it. Why? Because we said so. Okay. I really only wanted to build armies. What would you like to give as a grade for lore, Florian?
I'll give it a B. I mean, it's not super great lore, but it is decent lore, and it's pretty important to the story. And back in the day, there were a lot of quests and stuff revolving around it, although those are all gone now, but, it just kind of is what it is.
Right. I'm going to give it a B minus. I take points away from it just because it's so hard to actually get this lore. It's not that it's not there. It's not that it's hard to find. Like, it's actually easy to find. It's just not in the game. It's from completely other sources, which I think is a reason to take points away in my book. So that still puts it at basically a B for lore. So we have B for lore, a D for gameplay, B for ambience. That's like, what, a C, C plus area?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. It's not bad. It's just old. And I think that's really the biggest thing about it, is that it's just old. And it's one of the few vanilla dungeons left that has never been touched in terms of getting any forms of updates. A lot of the other ones had small updates or a little bit of this or there, This one hasn't been touched at all. And I think that's the biggest mark against it.
Yeah, probably. It needs a bit of an update. I can see why they haven't done it yet, though, because it's a huge dungeon, and it would take a long time.
Yeah, and also you have to have a reason to update it. Like all of the other ones that they've updated, they've like had some very light tie into the story somewhere along the way, whether it's like the Twilight Council or, whatever. There's, the Twilight cultists are there, torturing Murlocs or something. But they haven't quite had a reason to do this one. And I think they missed the opportunity that they had. They only redid Upper, and I think they could have redone both, but I think they were so old that it's a lot bigger project than we realize in terms of updating these, and they didn't want to devote the time to Lower and Upper.
It makes sense. Besides, they had garrisons to do. It's important.
All right, let's get ready to get out of here. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Hopefully... Oh, wait, Evan's not going to be here next week. Next week it's Father's Day. We might have a guest on. We don't know yet. We're still waiting to hear back. Otherwise, it'll be me and Florian again. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, email us at thecastbar@gmail.com. Send us a tweet at CastbarPodcast. And remember, if you would like Lily, Sonia, or Zagara, tweet at us which one or ones you would like, and with the hashtag CastbarHeroes, or send us an email, same thing. Call and leave us a voicemail at 508-738-2278. You can find all of our old shows on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and our website, which is www.thecastbar.com. We have to give some credit to the dude who did the music for our bumpers. You can find all of Kevin MacLeod's work at incomtech.com, royalty-free by Attribution 3.0 Creative Commons license. If you would like to get a hold of me, I have a Twitter amongst all other forms of social media. Most of the time, either search for my name, Michael Schwahn, or the handle Schwahn Michael, which is at SCHWAHNMICHAEL. Evan wasn't here today. His Twitter is at EDCWow. And Florian, where would you like people to try and contact you at?
I would like people to contact me through the Castbar's email. I technically have a Twitter, but I don't use it, so I'm just going to stop plugging it on the show. Because
that's fair.
What's the point?
Yeah, but you have a whole inbox full of direct messages, and just you haven't turned Twitter on in a month.
That's quite possible. In fact, I should probably check to see if someone has tweeted me. Nope, no one has. Okay, Twitter's done.
All right. Well, everyone, enjoy your week. Florian, I will see you next week. Let's get out of here. Take it easy.
You are out of time.